ninja, JK, dupla, jinxa, bota, chakra em cada linha de faca, faz macramé no micado, base, espadas por frases, sintático, repara no que diga, é paradigmático, não tenho paralelo, sou para lá de mágico, sabes como eu rolo, martelo pneumático, técnica secreta do monstro roxo, estamos a meter-nos no dojo, estamos a manter combos no jogo, só com uma espada nos tojos, plano picado, não sabes de onde esta ave vem, nenhum radar pode detectar onde está a nave, mãe, tu sabes bem. Somos a clique, somos o clã. É Monster Jinx cabrão, respeito ao baixo, comer tartan. Na terra do nunca não digo banzai. Vivo na espunca e tenho um bonsai. Ninja que é ninja, ninja, frotas imperiais. E bate mal, logo bate mais. A minha crew não sem espelhos. Na rua, dragão azul, dragão vermelho. Sente o silêncio. Verso shinobi, nunca me canso. Sou de Nairobi, ágil como um ninja. Rápido como um ninja, letal como um ninja. Brutal como um ninja, fatal como um ninja. Forte como um ninja, secreto como um ninja. Devo mesmo ser um ninja.
Esta é para os meus ninjas, só para os meus ninjas. Onde é que estão os meus ninjas, 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 ninjas? Esta é para os meus ninjas, só para os meus ninjas. Onde é que estão os meus ninjas, 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 ninjas?
And we are live, everyone, and a good evening, and welcome to another episode of Top 5 Collaborations with the Westerosi Ninja and the Dawg Show, featuring our top 5 lists from a variety of different topics. I'm your host, the Westerosi Ninja, and look at my shirt. And joining me today is Dawg from the Dawg Show, as usual. So what's going on, Dawg? How's your day been?
It's been great, Milt. Been just antsy to get on with you here tonight and talk about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 4, our favorite moments from the episode. And yeah, I've been looking forward to this all day. So great to see you, Milt, once again. And great to see everybody here in the chat as well. So yeah, great to be here. And a great looking shirt, by the way. So
yeah.
There's coffee cups, folks. There's beach towels now, too. Some cool stuff, and you can definitely show you're part of the Ninja Gang.
Yeah, so check the stream description for the link to the Teespring store for the Westerosi Ninja, and all profits go to me. So anyway, so as Dawg said, tonight we will be going through our top 5 moments of Episode 4, titled "The Last of the Starks." Really, The Last of the Starks. Already the title's kind of like crappy. And it was a pretty decent episode. And, it was pretty fun picking through at least my favorite moments the past couple of days. What about you, Dawg? What did you think about the episode in general?
Okay, I think we talked a little bit last week, right? And I talked about the intensity level, right, being like at probably like one of the all-time highs for like all the way through an episode that I could remember ever, right? And then although on the second rewatch, I had some issues. And then the third, I told you I was going to maybe put that episode aside a little bit, right? So what I did here with this episode, because it was kind of, I thought it was okay overall, right? I wasn't, totally, high on that intensity level. I fully expected, once I think once the parties were leaving to their respective destinations for something bad to happen to somebody, right?
Yeah.
Something to show that Cersei was a driving force here to be reckoned with, right? And that the odds were kind of even here on this as we're going into our next episode tomorrow night, right? So I didn't watch the episode a second time, right? But I did watch like some major moments over again, right? And then of course I watched my top 5 moments as well. So a lot of my moments have to do with probably what could happen, down the road here with our last 2 episodes coming up, Milt.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I only watched like the, kind of like the major moments that I actually listed in tonight's stream, again, just to make sure that they're actually worthy of like a top 5 moment. It was an okay story. I mean, a lot of people were bashing this episode, but I still think this episode was actually, better written than episode 3 was. Which isn't really saying much, but it wasn't that bad. Sure, there are a lot of plot holes and everything else like that, but in general, I did kind of enjoy it. or I enjoyed it a lot more, than episode 3. So, given that, you guys are on the Westeros Ninja channel, so we're gonna have a slide next, and as usual, it's gonna be Game of Thrones by the numbers, and we're just continuing on our little, journey in terms of the viewership numbers for season 8, and for episode 4, we got about 11.8 million US viewers last Sunday night. So it pretty much matched that of the season 8 premiere, but it did not quite exceed the episode 3 numbers. But it was a pretty strong showing, and as everyone can see here, episode 2, which was probably the best episode so far this season, had the least number of viewers. So what you think about this, Dog? You think this was expected?
I was actually pretty surprised when I saw the graph there, right? And because I think I mentioned last week, I was expecting slightly better than our lowest number right there with episode 2, right? I thought it was just going to be slightly better than that and have a much worse dip than what it did, right? It didn't dip as much as I expected, right? Mm-hmm. So now, I expected episode 5 to be right where this one is at, right? Where we're at 11.8. That's kind of where I thought it was going to dip pretty hard.
Sure.
With episode 4. Then I thought it was going to come back with around like 11.8, 12 million, and then it was going to be even higher than any episode you've ever seen was going to be the finale, of course, right? But
sure.
Now you mentioned that the episode has been getting bashed on quite a bit, right? And that is true, right? So, but there's only 2 more episodes. I dare say it's gonna do just as well. It's gonna be possibly better than any episode ever next week.
Yeah, and there was a comment from Fandom DC, and he basically said, "Better written. Episode 3 was a battle episode. You can't compare it to this." And I guess my retort would be that even though it was purely a battle episode, there is still writing involved, and that writing in episode 3 was pretty inconsistent, as well as pretty hilarious in terms of some of the situations the characters actually got themselves into in episode 3. So even though it was purely battle, it still had to be written right. And in terms of the actual consistency of the writing, I thought episode 3 was a little bit worse than episode 4, in my opinion. So that's just my opinion. What do you think, Dog, about that comment about battle episodes versus non-battle episodes in terms of writing?
It's close, and I want to say that episode 4 is slightly better than episode 3, right? I mean, first off, for technical reasons, right? I could see everything, of course, right? Now, there are still some even writing details that I mean, we talked about them last week, Milt, with Arya just kind of popping out of nowhere, right? Yeah. And we figured that she was Nightcrawler and Wolverine kind of wrapped up in one, right? And
or somebody left a trampoline on the production set.
Now this week, I think their biggest flaw here was where's Euron Greyjoy's fleet, right? And I mean, you're going, obviously people are going to think you're going to Dragonstone, right? So your enemies are probably going to be looking at where you're, going home, right? And they even mentioned in the War Council about Euron Greyjoy's fleet, might be an issue, right? And then we know what happens, of course, right? So, but now after the episode, I think, I forgot which one. It might have been Dave or whatever, right? Whichever D&D, whichever one, right? He was like, Danny, kind of forgot about Euron Greyjoy's fleet, right? But I mean, they literally were just talking about Euron Greyjoy's fleet, right? And how could you possibly forget about that? So
yeah, well, I think maybe you can explain it by saying that Dany's mind, and she is just so focused on being the queen now that she's just forgot about everything else. She's just like single-minded now, and with all the other kind of crap happening around her, maybe the Euron's fleet was one of the last things on her mind. You can always make that kind of excuse, but I'm not going to dig into the minds of Dan and Dave. So. Anyway, who the heck knows? So, Dog, are you ready to basically get on with our top 5?
Absolutely, my friend.
All right.
Are you ready, chat?
Yeah, I think the chat's ready, and we will go with Dog's number 5 first, since he is the visiting team on this channel.
All right, folks, and yeah, and thank you, Mel. And my number 5 here was is John's eulogy, folks. That opens up our episode, right? And right away, before I do forget, I want to just say, awesome job, music team, and Raman Dwadi, and the folks that work on the string instruments here for this entire scene, right? When John was speaking, the music was just perfectly where it needed to be, so you really could focus on, hearing John's voice, right? And what a powerful speech, right? And we talked a little bit last week about, I was kind of bummed about Theon not getting to do a speech. We haven't had one of those good, rousing Game of Thrones speeches for a bit here, right? But after folks were saying their goodbyes, right? Dany was saying goodbye to Jorah, right? And then Sansa says goodbye to Theon, and she leaves the Stark pin too. I thought that was a great moment, of course. And we see Sam with Ed, things of that nature, right? But they come back, and then now John gets into a really great speech, and I didn't see that coming at all, right? Because I had talked about, I would have liked to seen Theon have a good rousing speech, just one where he's not getting thumped over the head, right? But I was like, oh, cool. We got my favorite character, Jon Snow, doing his friends Roman's countrymen lend me your ears speech, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic, right? Now, was this the last? This is my question. Why is this such a big moment? Because my question, I brought this up last week, Mel. We said, I think you said that you think that the Night Watch is still a thing, right?
Yep.
That's possibly still a thing. And I kind of think that it's over, right? There's no need for a Night's Watch. Was this kind of the last Night's Watch speech, or will we possibly hear, night gathers and now my watch begins, yada, 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 right? Are we going to hear that speech one more time before the show's over? Or was this kind of a close to the Night's Watch as well, right? So, but I loved the speech. I loved the attention that the other characters like Jaime, right? Even the Hound in the background, right? Like when John was saying certain words, like, they gave their lives, right? They set aside their differences, and I really liked how they were showing that those folks had respect for John at that time, right? It was his first, technically it was his first speech as Aegon the Sixth. So a wonderful scene. And then at the end, I don't think we really saw where they were trying to, give us that foreshadowing of a possible Dany turn here, right? But because Dany looked like she was just kind and just heartbroken over Jorah a little bit, right? So they kind of looked at each other. They started the pyres, and then I'm just trying to think of the end here real quickly, folks. I know she comes back, and then Tyrion looks at her, and I think that's about the wrap up on that. What did you think of this scene overall here, Mel?
I mean, this scene was a great opening scene for the episode, and I have to give my give props for Alfie Allen and Jorah Mormont, Ian Glenn, for playing dead people really, really well in this scene. But in terms of your question here, is this the end of the Night's Watch? I don't necessarily think that this John speech was like a Night's Watch speech or an end of a Night's Watch speech. I think it's like I think it was like his first speech as a king. Honestly, I think his speech was really, really good, and I can you can just see like maybe Daenerys just like going, wow, this guy can give a good speech, and he can actually inspire and motivate people in ways that I can never do. So I'm not entirely convinced Night Watch is gone, actually, because I don't think the threat from another Night King is actually extinguished at this point in the show. So and there's the next Lord Commander of the Night's Watch is going to be the 1000th Lord Commander, and that's going to be really, really symbolic and really, and that has to be filled. That position for the 1000th Lord Commander needs to be filled, I think. But it's just me. So I think I think it's still going to be there. Only because I just don't think the threat is completely gone. But in terms of the actual moment, Dog, I think that I mean, this was great. I mean, this was a perfect opening scene in terms of especially in light of the aftermath of such a big battle the week before or the night before in Showtime. So it's a great choice. I liked it.
Right. And the only thing I wanted to play off you there real quickly, Milt, was how you said it. You don't think that the threat is extinguished. And I think because I was trying to get the details out of John's speech there, where he talked about, so that those that come after us and those that come after them, right? That would threaten the world of men, right? So what else would threaten the world of men, of course, than, that threat, right? So I think your point is definitely valid that, that the Night's Watch isn't over yet, right? And there could be a possible threat in the future, right?
Yeah.
So thanks, Bill.
Yeah, cool. And and someone's gonna need to build, basically patch up that big, like quarter-mile breach, right? And on the wall, at the wall over by Eastwatch. So maybe the Wildlings will do that. Maybe Tormund can do that by himself as he's crossing back into the north for no reason. When he has his pick of castles along the wall that his people can kind of just inhabit, shelter, some food at the gift. But no, he likes to go and hang out, in the frozen tundra of the wastelands in the north. So anyway, again, Dog's number 5, Jon's eulogy, the opening scene of season 4 of episode 4, and my number 5 is, I'm titling this "Global Warming Must Be Real." Okay, because let's go and take a look at the scenes of King's Landing. Okay, in the last 3 seasons. Okay, in the last 4 seasons. So in season 5, we see a shot of Olenna Tyrell, right? She's going back, to rescue her granddaughter, and King's Landing is a beautiful city, right? It's basically set on a peninsula. The Red Keep's in that little tip right there, and and it's bounded on the other side of the peninsula by really, really steeply inclined steep mountains and hills, right? And all of a sudden, everything else around King's Landing is surrounded by water, right? Then in season 7, the mountains are gone, and all we have is kind of like a lush green field, right? And that's where the Dothraki soldiers are basically gathered in front of the walls of King's Landing, season 7. But it's still pretty lush, The climate hasn't changed yet. Maybe it's gotten a little bit colder and a little bit more temperate. And then all of a sudden, in season 8, in front of the walls of King's Landing, it's become a desert. How is this possible, Dog? I mean, global warming happened in a span of like 2 years.
And not only this, right? Like we ended in season 7, right? With Jaime, not that was the final scene, right? But Jaime was leaving King's Landing and snow was falling, right? He was like looking at this. I remember him looking at his glove or something, right? And there's, snowflake or whatever, right? And they I think one of their reasons they said they needed 2 more years was to, kind of build up snow and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And it looks like it's just that threat is absolutely was never an issue, right? Now later in this episode, Tyrion mentions a line about the king. His people were turning on him when they were hungry, and that was before winter. Or and I'm like, if this is winter, then you folks got it made.
Yeah.
I assure you, I live in Michigan, and especially last winter, they don't know the cold. You don't know the cold. You don't know cold.
Yeah. So and evidently the cold can actually wipe away, 1,000-foot or 2,000-foot elevated mountains too. So it was kind of weird, and basically filled in some of the narrow sea with some dirt, right, to basically have that scene in the middle. I don't know. It's kind of goofy in a way. I'm sure it's not important in terms of the overall story, but it was one of those. It was one of those kind of things that I saw actually, that I noticed in season 7, right? How the Unsullied was just, and the Dothraki was just massed in front of King's Landing, in front of those walls, and he had so much like flat land. over there. It's like a big, humongous valley in a sense. And then, and then going back to season 5, there's not enough land, guys, to actually mass a great army because the other 3 sides of, of King's Landing is on a peninsula and surrounded by water. So, no, it was just kind of goofy, that's all. And I'm sure other people have noticed it too. And season 8 is even more bleak. It's almost as if they mowed the grass and basically just kind of filled it up with dirt, in a way. It's basically like it's like desert essentially right now, a desert climate. So, hey, but deserts are nice to fight wars in, evidently. Nice flat relief, unlimited horizons. What more can you ask for to fight a big battle? So, yeah.
And they were
pretty cool.
I'm sorry. There was no possible way they were at a gate or something, like a different gate or something, or they're at the same spot, right?
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, between season 7 and season 8, they could potentially be in a different side of the castle, right? In different side of the walls, or maybe season 7's on the north side and season 8's on the east side or the west side, whatever, right? But if you just look at the picture from season 5, right, there's no flat land surrounding King's Landing, right? You have water on 3 sides because it is a peninsula, and then you have basically a steep elevation change on the landward side of the peninsula. So how did the mountains get flattened? So anyway, that's all I'm gonna say. That's all.
It'll be interesting next week if we see mountains.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow night, anyway.
Yeah, but again, does it really matter? Probably not. But the only thing I can say, is that it takes hundreds of millions of years to actually erode mountains, basically by natural means. The Appalachians are like over, 650 million years old, and still they're not eroded yet, right? I mean, they're still pretty high in some spots. So, yeah, maybe Qyburn had a super bulldozer. He developed a super bulldozer and just went crazy and went off on the mountains and basically flattened it out because he needed resources to build this, scorpion ballistas or something. So anyway, so that's my number 5, the whole global warming aspect of King's Landing of Westeros in general. So we're going to go to number 4, and Dawg, take it away.
All right, folks, it's party time, right? We've had our soliloquy, our eulogy, right? And it's time to get down and party like it's 1999 in Starkville here, right? So this scene starts out, right, and John, it's really somber, right? They're just kind of at the Great Hall, and John's just looking at Dany, and she is just staring off in the space. I'm thinking she's possibly staring at Gendry, but we don't know that for sure, right? But I mean, she's got this look of kind of like when when Frodo got bit by Shelob, right, and got poisoned, right? That's kind of what Dany kind of looked like there, right? So, but now as I think Gendry he's talking to the Hound, and and the Hound just he's just having a meal. He's probably just happy to finally be able to sit down and eat, right? And nobody bugging him, right? But of course, here comes Gendry, right? And he wants to know where Arya is, right? And then Hound kind of berates him a little bit, right? But then he tells him to go off and find Arya, of course, right? So, but as he's leaving, Dany stops him, right? And asks folks, well, first he kind of try. It's almost like she's kind of scare him a little bit, because she's like, did you know your father tried to murder me, and and sent people to kill me, destroyed my whole family, all the whole 9 yards with that, right? Mm-hmm. And then he mentions that he's never met her, or he never knew about his father until after he was dead. And then she asked if anybody knows who the Lord of Storm's End is, right? Yeah. And Storm's End is a pretty familiar place, I would say, if you ask the average Game of Thrones fan, to name some areas. Storm's End might be, brought up, right? But nobody knows at all who the Lord of Storm's End is, right? But now Gendry is no longer Gendry Rivers, right? According to the show, which he probably should be Gendry Waters, I believe. Or what's the other one? Gendry Storm, possibly.
Well, I mean,
he was born
you know,
King Brandon, so he should be Gendry Waters technically, right? So
I mean, technically, he shouldn't be any of those because he's not an acknowledged bastard by any of his parents, So, unacknowledged bastards have technically no surname whatsoever. He's just Gendry.
right,
Yeah.
But after this is all said and done, he is now Gendry Baratheon, the Lord of Storm's End. You know, if Dany wins the war, I'd imagine that's a big thing, right? So but now, and there's kind of a silence about this, right? And then, but Sir Davos breaks the silence, and he's like, you know, hey, to Lord Gendry Baratheon, and you know, folks are cheering and stuff. Everybody except for the Hound, of course, right? Who's just like, oh, you know, you give him, you know, something, but you know, what'd you do for the Hound, by the way, right? Night that poor man. That's all I'm saying, right? So I'm going back from what I said last week.
hey, dogs. I mean, do you think Tormund's holding that same horn he was holding like in episode 2?
That he was drinking the milk out of?
Yeah.
I think so. I don't know what that thing is though. What is that?
It's a big like mammoth horn, I think. You know, just kind of like, you know, hollows it out and basically pours his sour goat's milk into, you know, to get drunk. That's all I could think of.
yeah, that's exactly what that's from. Okay, I was trying to think of when we had some creatures. I was like, oh yeah, that's right, we had those, and yeah, that would make sense. So I don't know where he got one, you know, to bring down to. I don't know, maybe there was one hanging around in Winterfell somewhere from long ago. That'd be kind of cool to know, maybe, you know. So, but you know, so where did I leave off there? I was talking about Gendry and. Yeah. I think we go over and we see Jamie and Brienne a little bit, right? And Brienne doesn't want to drink, but you know, Jamie's like, look, we just you know, showed off everybody our plot armor last week, and it's time for us to party, right? We can't be killed. Might as well just go ahead and party, right? So they start drinking a little bit, and oh yeah, we also Davos kind of wraps up the Melisandre story also here, right, with Tyrion a little bit. I might have missed. I think I missed that right prior to this also, right? But basically, we just hear about how Davos was going to kill her, but she took the necklace off, basically, right? And we don't know what the Lord of Light wanted. Basically, he tells us to go do all this stuff, and then he tells us to F off, right? So that's kind of to me, that's kind of what the writers were telling us a little bit, right? It was just like it's over. I don't know if they were necessarily telling us to F off, right? But maybe they were. But I think that's what they were saying about the story. It's, you know, that's over for now, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of what they were kind of getting at towards that, right? So now also when she names, just to get back to when Gendry's named Lord of Storm's End, right? Jon hands Gendry the cup. Right, so as they're gonna do the toast when Davos announced that, right? So he hands him the cup, and I thought that was, you know, kind of a cool throwback to like Ned and Robert sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, kind of like when Gendry talked about, you know, hey, our fathers fought together and won together. So I thought it was kind of a cool thing that Jon gave Gendry the cup there, right? So as soon as that kind of happened, right, and Tyrion picks up that, well, now you're going to have a loyal subject for, you know, for a long, long time, right? And then Sansa picks up on it too, right? So she's like, oh, I see what Dany's up to, right? And Dany mentioned to Tyrion, you know, you're not the only one that's clever around here, right? So after that, they go back to a little drinking game with Tyrion and Bran. I'm not going to get into, or with Tyrion and Jamie and Podrick a little bit, right? So it was kind of fun. And also seeing Tormund get kind of passed up, right? And Jamie kind of, hey, bro, sorry for a second there, right? And that was kind of funny, right? So then, you know, Bran walks off, Jamie follows her, and now this is an interesting part here to this party, Melt. I want to get into this with you here, right? Is that Tyrion talks to Bran now, right? And Bran says, you know, about. He goes, that's similar to the saddle I made for you, I think, something to that nature, yes, right? Yes. This was made by Darren. I believe it's Darren the second, right? I think we learned that from trivia last night, right? So Wednesday, right?
Wednesday night, I was talking about that, yeah.
Yeah, so and then it was for his nephew. Now, what was his nephew? Was he of any significance here?
Well, it was most likely a nephew from his wife's side. Okay, so his wife was a Martell, right? So it was probably a Dornish nephew. That's my guess. Because there isn't any nephew of his on the Targaryen side, on his father's side, right? That no, or on his brother's side, right? That was disabled. So it must have been a nephew from his wife's side. If that makes sense.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was
Martell. It was a Martell, probably.
I was curious to know if it was symbolic to anything, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Tyrion says, "I envy you" or something, right? And then he says something about you shouldn't envy me because I live in the past mostly. If so, and then that kind of goes away. Now, the chunk of what I want to talk about here is, Tormund's now boasting Jon up a little bit, right? He's just like, you've got to be an absolute mad. He's like, he got on a dragon, right? What kind of a crazy person gets on a dragon? And I'm like, Tormund, you got on a dragon. We saw you season 7, episode 6. You've actually rode a dragon prior to Jon Snow riding a dragon, right? So I don't know. Maybe Tormund's not one to boast himself, I guess. Right? But we hear him talking about, he's a great leader. He's strong. He's short, but he's small. All that stuff, right? We get to see a great a shot of a Starbucks cup, right? So that was also located.
Well, I looked at it. I looked at it really up close, and I had a slide in here because that was one of my moments, but I actually took it out. In terms of a Starbucks cup, right? The actual sleeve for the cup isn't full size. It doesn't extend to basically like the bottom and the top of the cup. It's basically like, only covers like that, like the middle third of the cup in Starbucks. The actual cup that was actually left on the table had a full size sleeve. So it extended, the whole height of the cup itself. So I don't think it was Starbucks.
No, it was a local one. Yeah, it was a local coffee place, right? But
I'm sure it was.
Hey, folks, $15 million an episode. You're gonna miss stuff like that, right? For $15 million an episode, you're gonna miss things like that, right? So, but let's get to the beef of what's really happening here, right? So, I think prior to this, they did a toast to he does a toast to the Dragon Queen, right? And then Dany steps up and she's like, to Arya Stark, the real hero of Winterfell, and the folks start cheering, right? And now Jon and Dany look at each other, right? And it looks like a nice happy moment, right? People are happy now. We can kind of get back into the merrymaking, if you will, right? But then Sansa sees those two looking at each other, and she gets up and she takes off. And then Dany sees Sansa not liking that Dany's kind of, has a smile on her face, right? So now Dany just kind of sits down, right? And then, but the beef of this, right? And what a great job again by the music department here, right? Because they have like those low strings going as Dany's listening to all these voices around the tables and stuff, right? And it almost sounds like like when they would do the Mad King going, burn them all. And you can kind of hear it almost kind of sounded something really eerie about it, right? So I think they were trying to lead us into that might happen, right? But I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're kind of making it look like that's what she might do, and Jon's going to temper her eventually. I hope so, right? So, but to make a long story, I know I really went into this a little more deeper than I meant, but after kind of all that merrymaking's going on, Dany kind of stands up and leaves, and I'm trying to think of. Oh, the other thing I want to mention here is that Tormund mentions, what would you have to be to ride a dragon, a madman or a king, right? So, and you look at those two, Jon and Dany, right? And it's like, is that what they're saying in that dialogue? Are they saying one's a madman and one's a king, or one's a madman and one's a queen, right? So that was just kind of something I picked up on that also, Milt.
Yeah, well, Targaryens or the Dragon Riders are known for, being kings and queens as well as, occasionally being a bit off the rocker. So, yeah. Hey, so are you done, Dog?
Oh yeah, the only other quick thing, Mill, was did you have any interest in what Hound and Sansa? We finally got to see Hound and
Yeah.
Sansa have an interaction there.
Yeah, I mean that was just like the last reunion that wasn't closed. So I think finally that the whole the whole Hound Sansa kind of reunion arc is now been closed, right? The loop's done, right? Essentially, the Hound saying, you should have went with me, and then Sansa's going, well, if I did go with you, then I wouldn't have had all these crazy, terrible experiences, and I would have still been like a naive little girl. And basically by choosing not to go with the Hound, it made her, it turned her into quote unquote the smartest woman in Westeros. So,
Yeah,
and not a naive little girl. So,
the only thing I picked up on that was
yeah,
when she says that line,
yeah,
I think it was a reflection on him as well. I think he took that to like, oh, if I hadn't been burned in the face and all that stuff, right, I wouldn't have
hmm
gone through all the trials and tribulations that he's gone through,
hmm
right? So, and what I also loved about it though is that when she stood up,
hmm
she looked, she made sure that she looked directly at him,
yeah,
right, and she kept making sure that she was looking right at his face, right, and
yeah.
then that was the best part I loved about it was how she kept making sure that she looked at him.
Yeah, and and honestly, I mean, I don't think the Hound and Sansa are ever gonna meet again. So, I know it's gonna be sad, okay, but I don't think the Hound's actually gonna make it out of King's Landing in any, in any kind of live state. That makes sense. But yeah, but overall, I mean, the party was great. The only thing that we were missing were like the guys from Coldplay, who played at the Red Wedding. If we had kind of had those guys, kind of like in the corner playing some music, that would have been pretty cool, right? Kind of like jamming some tunes like the Bear and the Maiden Fair, or like Reigns of Castamere. Just kidding. Anyway, but stuff like that. But I think really the main purpose of this scene, or the main gist of this scene, was two things. One was to basically show the popularity of John, okay, in front of his subjects, right, in front of the people that he's kind of quote unquote ruling over now, or lording over right now. Everybody loves John, but then also then shows the increasing isolation of Daenerys Targaryen, right? I mean, in the whole scene, I mean, she was like sitting at least 6 or 7 feet away from everybody else by herself. Okay, she's being increasingly isolated here. I mean, where the heck were the Dothraki? Where the heck were the Unsullied? Well, I mean, no, Unsullied don't drink, but where the heck was Grey Worm and Missandei in all this? It was just
Right.
her, in a room full of Northerners. So I mean, so you see that increasing isolation. So and it's and she'll be increasingly isolated as the episode goes along. That we'll see later on. So but it was a cool party, no doubt about that. I mean, you had Tyrion's drinking game, which is pretty cool. You had Brienne semi admitting that she was a virgin, and it was all right. And then you had some really, really, really good lines from Tormund Giantsbane, so you can't beat that at all.
Dan and Dave made it in there too.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, couple of wildlings. So awesome. Uh, so yeah. So is that it, dog, for number 4? The party
Oh yeah,
time.
I know that was a long. That was the one I had the most notes on. There was a lot going on in that scene, Milt. So
All right. So dog's number 4, the party time at Winterfell, and my number 4 is Rush Hour Part 2, starring Jackie Chan and the other guy. What's his name? I don't remember. But these two people, the Arya Stark and the Hound, are going back to King's Landing, guys, and they are buddying up. They're joining forces together to take care of personal business. The Hound is going back down there to basically kill his zombified, or his flesh golem, brother, and Arya has unfinished business with Cersei Lannister. Can they do it? Can these two buddies accomplish their mission? And people have been looking forward to this since the end of season 4, and yeah, I mean, I really can't wait to see what's going to happen here. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see like kind of like the diatribe and the character interaction that we saw throughout seasons 3 and 4, with the Hound and Arya, but because I think it's just going to be straight, them riding down and boom, they're just going to appear in King's Landing to do something. But but it's great to see them back together. And no, I miss Jackie Chan and that other guy in Game of Thrones. So what do you think about this as the moment? Because everybody I know has been looking forward to this, for the past 3 seasons.
Chris Tucker.
Yeah, Chris Tucker. Yeah, and the other
Yeah.
guy.
I don't know what his name is. Yeah, the other guy. Right. Yeah, this is my absolute favorite scene of the whole entire episode, Mel. So, and this confirms Dog's theory, or not theory, right? But absolute fact, right? That we're going to get an Arya and Hound spinoff series, right?
Yeah.
We talked about a possible Hound and Mel series last week because I was like, hey, what was going on with Mel and Hound when they were chit-chatting, when Arya was off, taking down the Night King, right? But there was some time going on, and we thought that maybe they were possibly getting ready for their spinoff series, right? But that's confirmed, folks, right here today. These two will be doing a spinoff series, and I'm going to watch every week as they get into their little adventures, get into their banners and stuff. And you're going to watch too. Every one of you are going to watch the Hound and Arya every week.
Yeah.
And you're going to love it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this was definitely my favorite scene, right? So we see Hound coming out, and I always like he's munching on something, right? And then he's like, for F's sake, and then there she is, right? And are you alone? Well, I'm not. No.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I love their banner, right? So yeah, he's they both have their list to take care of. I don't the one important thing I want to ask though, Mel. Does Sansa, anybody know that Arya left, right? Or did she just leave on her own volition? I know there was another chat, I think Living My Rhapsody and Marie's the other night. They were talking about, did Sansa send Arya off to take care of business, or is this something that Sansa did on her own volition? And she's, this is her own mission.
It's not out of character for Arya just to basically just take off, whenever she wants to. Then again, on the other hand, it wouldn't surprise me that, Arya, now that she's into the family, is the most important thing in the world to me now, would actually listen to Sansa and actually take an order from Sansa to basically send her down to King's Landing to help Jon achieve the throne, right? Essentially, I think that's where all the people are saying. Everybody in the community are thinking right now is that, Arya is only going down to King's Landing, not because she wants to hang out with the Hound, it's because she wants to ensure Jon basically being the king.
Okay.
And who else wants to be the king? Who else wants Jon to be the king? Sansa as well.
Right. I think that too. I think she is going to take Cersei out.
Yeah.
Or I think she's got Cersei on her list. The Mountain's on our list as far as I remember too, right? But of course she's probably gonna let I think we have our matchup, our tag team. It's gonna be Mountain and Arya versus Cersei and the Mountain, or how I messed that totally up, right?
Cersei and Arya.
Arya and Cersei and basically Qyburn and the Mountain on the bad guy side, right? So I think they're gonna try to go in there and they're gonna foil Cersei's diabolical plan or something tomorrow. I think that's what's going to happen.
I totally agree, about that, because I think both of these people need to go. Arya needs to get through the Mountain, right, to get to Cersei, and she has her perfect accomplice now, right, which is the Hound, to do that, right. And then Arya can take care of Qyburn by herself, no problem, right, and then it'll just be kind of like a thing with Arya against Cersei now. Arya can definitely kill Cersei anytime she wants to, but will she? I don't know. She's on her list. There's other people saying that Cersei might live. So maybe Jon will be there, and Jon will say, "Arya, don't kill her, don't kill her." Who knows, right? So, we shall see, but we can't wait, right, to see the shenanigans that the Hound and Arya are going to be up to in King's Landing for sure tomorrow night. So let's go to our number 3 picks, Dog. And your number 3 is...
Okay, folks. Yep. And my number 3 here is, keep it secret, keep it safe. Right. So, this is the scene with Jon and Daenerys. As Jon is, I think he's he's had his fill for the evening, right? And he's kind of just sitting in his chair. And what I love about how this scene opens up is Dany doesn't knock on the door, right? She just opens the door. I mean, that's got to be cool to be the queen, right? I mean, or the king. And I mean, I was like, you know what? If there was one person that didn't knock for anybody, it would be Daenerys, right? So I just thought that was kind of cool that, she doesn't even knock on the door and just opens it, and John's cool with that, right? So, but now, we see that, she tells him, well, John pays his respects basically to Jorah, right? He's like, I didn't know Jorah well, and but I know he respected you, loved you, all that kind of stuff, right? And then she talks about how she, she loves John, right? And I honestly think she absolutely does love John, right? But so they start kind of making out, if you will, right? But I think something inside John is because right prior to the action, if you will, right? Daenerys says, "Is that okay with you?" Right? I think that meant, "Is it okay that we're related?" kind of thing, right? I think there was a dialogue in there. I should have wrote that down, but yeah, is that all right? I did write that down. Okay, awesome, right? So he said that, she says, "Is that all right?" And I think that is in reference to, their relation as aunt and nephew, right? So, and then it seems like he's okay with it because they start kind of making out, right? But then I think something inside John might have creeped him out a bit about, I think the northern, if you will, that Varys is going to mention in this, later in the episode, he's going to say, is that common in the North to marry your aunt, right? And I think that maybe the northern side of John's kind of like, yeah, I don't know about this right now, right? So, but now it kind of turns into, Danny's like, look, I don't want you to tell anybody about this, basically, right? And and then she mentions Sam and Bran, right? And it's kind of like, should John be in fear for his friends now, right? About this seeker, right? Like that she's mentioning them, right? It's kind of like, it almost kind of feels like, she could get to the point to where she would threaten Sam and Bran and possibly Sansa and Arya and all of them, right? So that's the way they were kind of twisting it a little bit. That's what I was picking up from it, right? And it was sad to watch Dany actually beg, right? I know, they've called her the beggar queen in the past. Some of her enemies, of course, right? But she I think this was Emilia Clarke's one of her best jobs acting throughout the entire series. I do got to say that about this episode, Mel, is that I think this is one of her best. Throughout the entire episode, I think she was absolutely outstanding. So hats off to Emilia Clarke on this episode. I think so. Anyway, so, but yeah, now that begging and all that stuff, right? John tries to temper it again, right? And he's like, we can still be together, right? We can still be a family. And if they want to push me to the Iron Throne, I'm going to deny it anyway. You're my queen, all that stuff, right? And Danny's just like not having it, right? She's like, it's going to consume you and all this stuff. And it's just kind of rough to watch her kind of going through that, right? So, but by the end of it, you can see that she's gone from, loving and caring to begging to she's pissed off. She's pretty mad at John now, right? So, she's like, I told you how this will work. And, this is the only way it could possibly work, right? And if you don't listen to me and don't see that, then I'm just going to be pissed off at you, right? So I think that's kind of how it ended there. And, what were your thoughts here on this one, Mel?
Well, I
think it's going to have significant ramifications for the future.
Yes.
That's why it's a top 5 moment.
Yes, John's obviously uncomfortable being in a relationship with his aunt or aunt, right? So yeah, the only reason why he kind of made out with her, before that was because he was semi-drunk to begin with, right? And probably didn't even care, but he kind of came in and realized that, hey, I'm actually kissing my aunt, so let's kind of like step back a little bit. But what the really sad part here is that, again, it shows Dany's increasing isolation. Okay, from everybody else. It's almost like it's her against the world now, because why does she need to beg right now? Why? Why is she begging Jon not to tell anybody? Why is she doing this? Her mind is just so single, hell bent on attaining the queen, attaining the Iron Throne, that everything else is just out the door, right? And she knows she has no army left, right? To actually support her, right? And just only like one dragon, two dragons at that point. So it was a really, it was in a way, it was powerful to see Daenerys Targaryen beg, because we haven't seen Daenerys Targaryen beg in the entire series. And yeah, I mean,
I like that.
yeah, it's basically foretelling or foreshadowing things to come, because I don't think, if anybody's expecting like a happy marriage between these two, it's not going to happen, obviously, at this point. But no, but I have a kind of a semi-serious question to you, Dog, about this. So, who do you think got shot down the hardest in this episode? Gendry, Ghost, or Daenerys, or Brienne?
Oh wow! Oh,
There's a lot of begging going on.
Brienne. I mean, how Brienne did? Forgive me, I forgot the actress's name. I had a brain fart there.
Captain Phasma.
Yeah, Captain Phasma.
No. It's Gwendolyn Christie. It's Gwendolyn Christie.
Gwendolyn Christie,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I mean, that was absolutely outstanding on her part. But yeah, just a symbolic, folks. I know it was it sounds silly, right? But she goes from not knocking on a door to the Warden of the North, right?
Yeah.
She just walks in. She's the freaking queen, to absolutely begging.
Yeah.
And we have never seen her ever beg like that, right? To the point of, where you definitely could see my heart, I felt for her, right? So great job to Emilia Clarke there, right? So yeah, but and then a close second, I would go with Brienne, and Gendry was just silly.
Yeah, and Rhaegal and Ghost. Ghost was shot down pretty hard too, Jon leaving him. But we can we'll get to that stuff later on. And
we might possibly get to some of that stuff possibly later on.
Yeah, and thanks Fat Dingo for basically publicizing my Patreon account. Yes, for only $1 per month, you get to know basically what I'm gonna eat for dinner once a month. What more can you guys ask for that? For just $1 a month, be my patron, as well as other ancillary benefits. So anyway, so there it is, Dogs number 3, keeping it secret, a really great scene, and it basically foretells a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the next 2 episodes. My number 3 is the Ghost Army of Winterfell. Okay, what is going on with this? Because so after the whole Dany and Jon scene and the Jaime and Brienne scene, we get back into the get back into the Winterfell Solar, where they're all meeting, planning their next moves, on the map. And we have 50% of the Northmen are gone, 50% of the Unsullied are gone, 50% of Vailmen are gone, and what? 50% of the Dothraki are gone? And I'm going, look at that top picture. I only count 36 lights left, okay? And then maybe a few more guys riding back. So how can there be 50% of the Dothraki still alive? Because they came in with at least 2,000 or 3,000 horse riders, okay? Okay, yeah, because they came in with about maybe 1,000 boats, okay, from Slaver's Bay. And so I don't quite get where these Dothraki are hiding, because they weren't at the party. Right, so where are they? And so I found it kind of interesting how they actually had some random guy in a Dothraki costume go in there. Of course he didn't say anything, right? I mean, he basically just took half the blocks off the map, right? Said, yeah, I got 50% of the Dothraki gone. And then, so where are they hiding? Because in the opening scene, the funeral pyre, I see in the funeral pyres, I see a lot of Unsullied. I see a lot of Northmen. I see some Unsullied. I see some wildlings there, but where are the Dothraki in front of the funeral pyres? So where are they?
I'm curious of that too, and I think I mentioned this. I think they just Dan and Dave just said, hey, would you mind dressing up like a Dothraki for a day, right? And then after Jon says this, I just want you to walk up and take half of the stones away, and that's all you have to do, right? And because I was like, after when you see the Dothraki stones, there should be a pebble, maybe a little, just nothing there, right? Because I could have sworn. I know I'm getting a little older, folks. However, I saw probably whatever it was, 100,000, 200,000.
Yeah.
All those. I mean, Melisandre even lit up their Iraqs for us, right? So
yeah, just like 2,000 or 3,000 Dothraki. Yeah.
We could see them all get extinguished, except like I saw Jorah come back.
Yeah.
Maybe like 2 or 3 folks or something, right?
Yeah, and I count, I count 36 lights right there in that slide.
And I mean, correct my math, right? But say you had 100,000 mil. Let's say you had 100,000.
Yeah.
And you took away 50% of that. Mm-hmm. That would leave her with 50,000.
Yeah, 50,000. Yeah.
And I just don't think that percentage is correct here.
Yeah. I mean, I think the percentages of everybody were sort of incorrect, especially in the Dothraki sense. See those triangles in that map right there, where those tokens are? They represent the Dothraki. There should only be like half a triangle left at the most, considering they all charged into the into the whites at once because of the bad battle tactics that we talked about last stream. So I mean, it was kind of odd that we didn't see any Dothrakis except for this one random guy in the Dothraki costume in the solar.
Yeah, I think it's Westerosi mathematics.
Yeah.
So 50% in reality is 99.97.
Yeah. Bridge 4 said that maybe 42% of the 50% are in Mostown. Getting hammered. You buy that?
I mean, would the Night King have gone through there though?
Yeah. And wasn't Mostown wrecked by the wildlings like in season 4? It was completely smashed up, right? I mean, I don't remember them being a Mostown at that point. Well, whatever.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah. All right. So that was number 3, the Ghost Army Winterfell, and those 36 lights with the 50% of the Dothraki army still around somewhere. Maybe they're all wounded, like in the Winterfell, barracks or whatever. Anyway, and they couldn't make it out to basically, burn, their compatriots. But so we're down to our number 2s now, right, Dog? Our top 2s.
Yes, sir.
But before that, guess what, guys? It's episode 5 predictions with the wheel, of course. So, Dog, your pick as a visiting team. What is your question for episode 5 that you want to ask the wheel to predict?
And forgive me, folks, I had a really good one. It was original that came from me, right? And I totally forgot to write it down last night. But I've been watching the funny Preston Jacobs videos recently again. And I watched his last one on the episode, and there's a little guy that pops out named Greg, I think his name is, right? And he'll come out and he's like, "Hey, that's a season 1 reference," right? And there's some music and he starts dancing. I've had that music in my head kind of all day today. So, I want to know who is going to be our first season 1 reference. Who's going to do the first, who's going to, do the first season 1 reference in episode 5, this coming episode, who will be guilty of doing a season 1 reference like Tyrion did, right? When he was like, power resides where men believe it resides, right? It's a trick or something, right? So I want to know who's going to be guilty of doing our first season 1 reference.
Because all these references harkens back to the glory days of the series, right? Which was in season 1. So let's go see who will do the first, or who will speak the first, or make the first season 1 reference in episode 5. And away we're going to go. Tell me when to stop, Dog.
Oh, stop.
All right, the first person to make a season 1 reference is the Hound.
I could see that.
Yeah, he was.
Wheels on fire.
He was in season 1, so he might make a season 1 reference. You never know. Maybe he'll reference Joffrey, right? And saying, Jon will make a much better king than Joffrey Baratheon. And there you go. Season 1 reference. or Robert Baratheon or whoever. Okay, Jon makes the best king out of everybody, let's face it. So, okay. So my my question for the wheel is something really, really basic, okay? And it really is about who. Let's see. I had a really good question, but I'm not sure I should say it here because it might insult some people. No, okay, here it is. Okay, I'll say, okay, who will be the last person to die in episode 5? Okay, because we are going to expect a bloodbath. I'm not sure if I said that in one of the Breaking the Wheel vids, but I'm going to say it here. First. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I said first, right? Who'd be the first person to die? Yes, yeah, so who'll be the last person to die in episode 5? And let's see what the wheel predicts for this guy. And I'd like to stop it right about now. Last person to die in episode 5 is Brienne. Isn't she stuck up there in Winterfell? She's not coming down unless Sansa decides to gloat. Gloat for because the North has overwhelmed Cersei. I can't see that happening. So I think the wheel's just trolling me. Right. While
the other wolves are playing more down south, it's kind of left us open there in Winterfell for a takedown. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, if I asked the wheel, who is most likely to basically stay in their bedroom crying all night, yeah, definitely be Brienne. But that wasn't my question. It was basically who's gonna die last. So the wheel, you suck on that one. So if somebody in the chat, first person that asks the wheel question here, it has to be an open-ended who question for episode 5. I'll spin a wheel for you.
We have a wheel full of who's, folks. So
yeah, it's all about who's.
A boo-hoo question and not a boo-hoo. Mm-hmm. Who will kill the mountain?
Okay. Kat did it first. Who will kill the mountain? And let's see what the wheel says about this. Even though I kind of like fandoms, who will save Cersei from her death, but we will do who to kill the mountain first. Okay, so you know what? I'm gonna do fandoms anyway, only because I like that question so much.
Okay, yeah, we got a bonus who question tonight, folks.
So who will kill the mountain? Podrick Payne.
Nice.
But isn't he stuck up there in Winterfell as well with Brienne?
They can teleport.
I'm thinking the only way that they can happen is if they go down there with Sansa because she's gloating over the Northern Victory.
What if the mountain is captured and Podrick Payne takes over for Elend?
Yeah.
And he becomes the executioner per se.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, you're right. The mountain. You think the mountain's actually going to get captured or any chance of that ever happening?
I was trying to think of a way for Podrick to possibly finish off the mountain. I was thinking if he was the mountain's executioner, that might work.
Yeah. Well, Podrick Payne. So the wheel's really, I think, really trolling us tonight.
I think the wheel's trolling us a bit.
Okay, so I still want to do fandoms, which is who will save Cersei from her death?
From Euron. Or death.
From way before in the first couple lines. It was who will save Cersei from her death. Because he believes that Cersei's going to live.
Oh, that's Granite. Hey, Granite.
Okay. And let's take a look at who will save Cersei from her death because fandom is assuming that she's going to live.
You know what happens when you assume.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and stop it right now. The person who will save Cersei from her death is Drogon. I think Drogon's more likely to basically burn her alive than actually save Cersei from her death. What do you think about that? Unless she flies on him. What?
Maybe Cersei's a warg, and she can warg Drogon.
Mm-hmm.
And then, say all them Starks are surrounding Cersei, and she's like, oh, you know what, folks? Y'all didn't know I was a warg, like Bran or something, right? And then she just, wargs into Drogon and just destroys everybody. And then, of course, last would be the person that died, Brienne, right?
Yeah. Or maybe we can have a repeat of the rescue of the white capturers, where from last season, where Dany would see Cersei in danger and swoop down on Drogon and let Cersei take off and basically take off with her and basically take her to safety, just like last season with the white capturers or the white hunters. So anyway, There you go. Okay, that is a possibility. She might be saved by Drogon. All right, so we're done, and we're down to our top 2 here. So, Dog, you're number 2.
All right, folks, we're on to the last 2, and I entitled this one "The Queen Mustn't Know." Right, and I know a lot of folks are, they've been around. They've been thinking that the way Sansa's been kind of playing this is kind of using her little finger skills, if you will. But I kind of want to go back to season 3 with Tyrion, and he was kind of trying to find who would, not keep a secret, right? Mm-hmm. So he was talking about the Princess Marcella, right? And he was like, I'm going to send her off to be married to Rob and Aaron to Littlefinger, right? And then I think he tells, what's his name? Pycelle, right? Mm-hmm. He tells, I think Theon Greyjoy or something was another one he used, right? Mm-hmm. And then, or I think he actually told him the truth, right? He told him, Dorne, right, to Prince Tristan or something, right? But basically, he keeps telling everybody, hey, the Queen mustn't know. And then you hear the Queen mustn't know. And then the Queen mustn't know. Next thing you know, Pycelle lost his beard, right? So now to get into the scene, right prior to this, we had our war council, right? And Arya stops Jon's like, hey, we got to have a word here. And this was that scene right prior to that, right, where folks are thinking that Dany's going crazy. Mm-hmm. That was the only scene where I was kind of concerned, really, that possibly might be true, because I was worried about, and I thought maybe she was just trying to kind of one up Sansa there. But she was like, the folks will, be proud or whatever and be saved by their rightful queen. And then she has that smirk and she turns and walks away. Mm-hmm. And it totally reminded me of Viserys, mm-hmm. right? Her brother. Kind of how he would talk to Jorah or somebody else, and he would talk about their, the people's rightful king and mm-hmm. and all that. And it really reminded me of the way that Viserys talked. So I was kind of concerned at that point. Maybe it's nothing, right? But now we get led to the Godswood, and and Sansa's kind of like, Arya killed the Night King. We didn't even need Dany, all that stuff, right? But Arya's like, look, we needed Dany, we needed her armies, right? We needed her dragons. However, we don't trust her, right? And then Jon's like, look, you're not gonna make a lot of friends not trusting people. And Arya's like, look, we're family, and and Jon's like, I'm not a Stark. And now we get kind of those season 1 references again, right? Of course, that mm-hmm. You're not necessarily season 1 references, but Sansa kind of goes back on something she said before. You're still Ned Stark's true-born child, right? You're just as much his child as anybody else, right? Mm-hmm. But Arya comes up, she's like, you're my brother, not my half brother, not my step brother, all that other bastard brother, right? All that other stuff. Mm-hmm. You're my brother. And now we have been waiting so long to see a reaction from these Stark children, right? Or any Stark for so long, right? About R plus L equals J, all that stuff, right? And, Jon basically makes them, Bran tells them, hey, it's your choice to tell them or not, right? And he's like, you got to swear before this heart tree here, or, this weirwood tree here, right? You got to swear before that, that you will not tell anybody. And of course, Sansa, plays it just like Littlefinger, right? And Arya swears it. And I was surprised that Arya didn't grab the switch out, right, from the Game of Faces and just slap Arya like right then and there, right? Or slap Sansa right then and there when she said, I swear, right? So I thought that would have been hilarious.
You know what they should have done? You know what they should have done? Arya should have taken out the cat's paw dagger and made all of them cut like a little incision on their hands and basically shake hands like a blood oath.
So I thought that was kind of I thought that would have been hilarious if that would have happened. But okay, so Jon says tell them, right? I'm just like, hey, we've got time. I've got time. Why not just show their reaction to this, right? But I think what they were doing, I think this was kind of doing that Queen Mustn't Know game back from like season 3 with Tyrion, right? So now Sansa's got the story and it gets over to Tyrion, right? So Tyrion comes up and Sansa's, looking at the dragons, and she's just like, why her, all this stuff, and Tyrion's trying to kind of console Sansa, and please don't provoke her, please just show respect, you don't have to be friends, all that kind of stuff. But Sansa's like, you're afraid of her, right? And it basically, as Tyrion's walking away, right? Sansa's like, what if there was someone better, right? And so we obviously know that she told Tyrion about Jon's lineage, all that stuff, because later on in the episode, Jon is going to give that information to Varys, and I'll stop it where he leaves the information at with Varys, of course, right? So, but now Varys knows that there's 8 people that know this information, he calls it now, right? It's no longer a secret. This is information, and I think it's definitely going to be a big factor into what's going to come tomorrow night, right? I know we saw some. I don't want to talk spoilers. I know there were some photos released, but I'll just shut up there with that. That HBO to release, when Jon arrives and things that might lead to, maybe Varys speaking with him possibly about this. Maybe, I don't know. They might be talking about the fishing too. So, or the dragon that was killed. Also, they might be talking about that. So I didn't, just in case. So, but other than that, let me know if I missed anything in there, Mel.
Yeah, I mean, I like this scene because it shows basically all the Stark children, quote unquote Stark children, back together in front of the Godswood, having their little Stark meeting, right? Stark only meeting where nobody else is allowed to be in, and there were some pretty good lines in here, like Arya's line about I don't need allies, right? It's all about the family. I don't need allies, and well, Arya, I think you do need allies, because without allies, you would not have won the war against the White Walkers. And also, the thing about Sansa kind of bugged me in a way, in the sense that these are true Northerners, right? And if you make an oath in front of the heart tree, in front of a weirwood, okay, that's a pretty unbreakable oath, right? It's like freaking Harry Potter, right? It's the unbreakable oath, right? You cannot snitch, or you cannot tell anybody else about this. Once you make that oath, you got to keep it. And for her to pull a Littlefinger was really, really weird. In fact, I mean, they weren't even respecting Jon's wishes. Jon doesn't want to be king, right? I think he told him straight out, hey, I don't want to be king, guys. Okay, but yet, Sansa's playing a little Littlefinger game because she doesn't trust Daenerys Targaryen for whatever reason. Considering that Daenerys Targaryen actually saved their hides at Winterfell to begin with, but yet they still don't trust her. Fine, because she's not them, right? That's the excuse. She's not them. Only Starks are trustworthy. I mean, it was weird. Okay, I don't know what's going on with this. Sansa has her own game that she wants to play for whatever. I don't know what it is yet. And Arya, I don't think can give a shit about who, whether or not Jon is Aegon Targaryen or not. I think, she does whatever she feels is right to do. Okay. And, if it means following Sansa's order to basically kill Cersei so Jon could be installed as king easier, then so be it. And Bran doesn't care either. And poor Bran, right? I mean, Bran had to actually tell these girls, right? So Jon starts out saying that I have something important to tell you, yada, yada, yada. And then he basically pawns it off on Bran to actually tell him the story. So I thought that was kind of weird of Jon. That was kind of weak, Jon. Let's put it that way. And that's all I have to say about this scene. It was a cool scene. It was really interesting. I liked it. It was entertaining, but it was really quite mystifying for me in terms of how people were acting a bit.
The only thing I wanted to add, and that was really the reason I titled this "The Queen Must Have Known," because I think Sansa's. I'm kind of curious if she's playing a game with Tyrion to where, hey, if she finds out that Tyrion told Varys, right, and then it gets out to there, which, obviously I think that Sansa told Tyrion because, she wants him to get that information out, right, and she wants that spread around Dany's camp, at some point. However, I'm just kind of curious if this would, kind of put a rip in their relationship if she finds out that, hey, I told you not to tell anybody, and next thing I find out is that Varys knows about it, and now he's telling everybody in King's Landing about this, and now my brother's mad at me, or my cousin's mad at me, right? That was the reason I made this title, The Queen Mustn't Know, here.
Yeah.
So I was kind of curious if that would come into play. What do you think, Mel?
I mean, if that was her ultimate scheme to basically, kind of like fan the fires a bit, spread those rumors around, sure, why not? It still doesn't guarantee that John will attain the throne, obviously. But what it does, that I think Sansa knows that John is much more respected amongst the people than than Daenerys Targaryen would ever be, only because it's a patriarchal society, right, in Westeros. They're always going to go and back the male ruler, right? Let's be perfectly honest here. So so it's maybe that's part of her game. I mean, she could have easily just sent flyers around, just posting pictures. Have you seen this guy, Aegon Targaryen, and put like Jon's face on it? So, because that's pretty much what she's doing.
And just real quickly, folks, just saying that if let's just say I was Dawg Snow or Dawg Targaryen the Sixth or whatever. Right now is Jon at this point. And after we had done all that stuff, I would probably walk up to Bran and be like, "Hey, Bran, can you tell me where Euron's fleet is and what Cersei's up to, what the Mountain's doing, where the Golden Company is, and would you mind helping your cousin out?"
Yeah.
That's just the only thing that's the only other thing I wanted to say, buddy.
Bran's only there for one more reason. That's because he has business still left to do with the forces beyond the wall. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Thanks a lot, Dog. Dog's number 2. The Queen mustn't know what's happening in the Godswood. What are the Stark plans for the future of Westeros? My number 2 is the Westerosi Zapruder film. You ever watch JFK? This is exactly the assassination of JFK shot in Game of Thrones, right? Okay, basically, you had the wounding shot, okay, the arrow to the chest of Rhaegal, okay? Then you had like in the Zapruder film, it was a missed second shot, but this is sort of like a semi-miss. It kind of like clipped his wing, Rhaegal, and then boom, the third shot was the kill shot, right? The arrow or the bolt right through the neck, through the head, just like in the Zapruder film. And calling Oliver Stone back and to the left, back and to the left. That's exactly what happened with Rhaegal. So basically, I have a question to ask everybody out there. Was Euron Greyjoy the lone gunman in this scenario?
Ooh. Did he work alone? Was there a grassy knoll?
No, but there was a big ship.
All right, I'm still curious how he was. I mean, because like I was stationed on an aircraft carrier long ago, right? But those don't move very much, right? So they don't list very much. But I'd imagine, a smaller ship like what Euron's got, they probably rock a lot and list, this way and that. And the dragons are probably flying pretty fast, right? And moving and things of that nature. So to automatically just get a hit right into the chest, and not even a magic bullet.
Yeah, it was a winning
right?
shot. Yeah.
The second one gets his wing area, right?
Yep.
And then the third is the back and to the left, right? And then later on, Dany is doing what do they call that? The dive that Crumb does.
Yeah.
Right. In Harry Potter, right?
Victor Crumb,
The dive. So so she's doing the dive, right, straight into all these scorpions, and none of them hit her, right? So I gotta think that maybe there might be a grassy knoll somewhere, in another portal somewhere in outer space, that we didn't see, and somebody just came out and we didn't see that.
There could have been a grassy knoll in one of the surrounding islands, where they were at, and then you had this other mysterious gunman shooting the scorpion boat mounted on land and basically hitting Rhaegal. But but in all seriousness, I mean, this was kind of like a really shock death for me, and that's why I put it for number 2. I mean, I was expecting Rhaegal to go down this quickly in episode 4, and to see him go down and basically have Daenerys basically down to one dragon and hardly any men left, unless you count the 50% Dothraki that are still around. It was a shock to me. I mean, she's again increasingly growing a lot more isolated, right? She has no support. She has hardly any, trustworthy advisors left, and things are just looking bleak for her. Yeah, it's I don't know. It was a good moment because it was very shocking to me. I mean, it's just out of the blue, right? It was so peaceful to see the dragons flying around. They basically just anchored their boats off of Dragonstone. The dragons are flying around at the castle of Dragonstone, and boom, three shots, into the body of Rhaegal, and then he goes down. The frustrating part about this is that why did Dany dive? Why didn't she just ascend out of Scorpion range, fly around to the back of the Iron Fleet, and basically just burn the Iron Fleet around?
That's what I thought she was going to do too. Like when they were attacking her fleet that was anchored, I figured she would have gone around and got. But what I think's happening here, folks, is that during our War Council meeting, we were told about the Prince of Dorne. I think, right, Milt?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Yara Greyjoy taking back Pike, right? And so I think. I got a feeling we might see Yara, and I think you mentioned this, Milt, on the first episode we did. Was the last time we were going to see Yara Greyjoy, and I think we're going to see Yara Greyjoy again. I got a feeling, she'll come in
that way now.
Do some interference on the fleet, and then Dany can take care of business.
Yep,
that's my guess.
Yep, and cool. So that is my number 2, the Westerosi Zapruder film. Just like the JFK assassination. And we are down to our number 1s, dog. You up for this?
Awesome.
You ready?
I don't know if Dorne's going to make an appearance, but
yeah, you ready? You ready for this, dog? Number 1.
Dorne.
You set?
Yep, I'm ready for my number 1, buddy.
All right, here we go. Numero uno, people.
And folks, I guess Winterfell apparently is not a petting zoo, right? And I was absolutely heartbroken, just like everybody else, when I heard that poor wolf whimper, right? And I was like, well, you couldn't even go over there and say, bye or something, or, shake, one last roll over or something, go up and give them a treat or something, right? So, but yeah, I was absolutely heartbroken. But okay, to get a little bit more serious here, folks, we're going to have some goodbyes here, right? Where Jon, originally, right, he's he's leaving south, he's heading south for the war, right, heading down the King's Road. And so first we talked to Tormund, right? He's like, aren't you riding a dragon south? And he says that Rhaegal needs time to rest, right, to heal up, and that's going to be unfortunate to see Jon learn that news, probably that Rhaegal is gone, of course, right, this Sunday, right? But now Tormund says that he's heading back north with his people, right? The women down south don't like him much, right? And Jon tells him that he's welcome to stay, of course. And this is the north, right? But Tormund's talking about the real north, the beyond the wall north, right? Where the real Northmen are, right? And so I believe he says he's gonna bring the folks back through Castle Black, and I think they're gonna head back to where they were originally, right? I think that was kind of our goodbye here, right? But now, what was interesting about this was, he goes, you should come with us or something. I think you would be happier, right, if you were coming with us, right? He says something like that to Jon, where he was like, you'd be happier north too. And he goes, he tells him by the end of it, he goes, you've got the north, you've got the real north in you. And but the main thing I wanted to get at here, Milt, I wanted to ask you is that you hear Tormund, or Jon says, I guess this is farewell. And then Tormund says, you never know. And we always hear, nothing, Jon Snow, right? So, pardon me. Will we see, another Jon and Tormund reunion by the time it's all over? That you never know line is what hit me the hardest with that. And then real quickly, he says goodbye to Sam, of course, too, right? And Gilly's pregnant. With of course, it's Sam's baby, I'd imagine, not Ghost, of course, right? But and then he doesn't say goodbye to Ghost, and I think that was all the farewells there, right? I think Sam I don't know if we're going to see Sam anymore or not. I'm imagining. I guess he's going to go to Hornhill. That's where I don't think he's heading back to the Wall. I'd imagine he'd go back to Hornhill and go home, right? So, maybe we'll see him after the King's Landing stuff, possibly. But I would imagine he's just taking Gilly and the baby to Hornhill, right? And then now when John was leaving, then we heard the whimper of Ghost, and they just kind of looked. I'd imagine the director just said, "Hey, Kit, look left as if you're looking at Ghost one last time, and then keep on walking, right?" But maybe this isn't one last time, right? So, I'm just going back to that line that I think the most important line in the whole scene was what Tormund told John when he says, "You never know," right? So, I'm wondering if John, possibly is going to see Tormund again. And possibly see Ghost again. Maybe this wasn't the, even though we didn't get to see him pet him, maybe we are going to see John with Ghost one last time.
Yeah, I don't know, Dog. I think there is a clear sense of finality here in this scene, in my opinion. It's like, you never know. It could just be something somebody says, to comfort somebody, in their final goodbyes, right? But to me, it seemed like there was an eerie sense of finality in this whole scene. So I don't think we'll see Tormund again. I don't think we'll see Ghost again. Because I think they ran out of CGI budget, quite honestly. And Sam and Gilly I can see reappearing again, because he is technically now the Lord of Hornhill, and who's to say that after they if they do overthrow Cersei, there won't be some sort of weird time jump, and then Sam and Gilly will be there for John's coronation or something like that. Potentially, it could happen. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there right now. Too bad about Ghost. Poor neglected, direwolf here. It's like, Ghost has this mangled right ear, and there's no vet in Winterfell. Couldn't Maester Woken have patched up his ear a bit? It's like half his ear is there, dude. It's like, what's going on with that? And couldn't somebody have wiped the blood off of his snout? Honestly.
Right.
He looks like a mangy dog that you see running around some war-torn city in the Middle East. So I don't know what's happening here with Ghost. Tell me, Dog.
Ghost. And where is Maester Wolken? Have you seen him yet?
Yes, I saw him partying. Actually, he was partying in that party.
Oh, okay, I guess I will have to rewatch. And I like Maester Wolken. He's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. Yeah, Maester Wolken's definitely cool.
I don't know if he's cool.
He did build that chair for Bran, right? And that wheelchair for Bran is the same exact model, by the way, that Doran Martell used. Of course, I don't think Doran was as quick with the wheelchair as Bran is. So, whatever. Anyway, enough about Doran Martell. So, yeah, this definitely not a petting zoo in Winterfell. And really, really sad. Ghost. Really, really sad goodbye, I think, with Tormund, at least. So,
I love Ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, poor Ghost. Exactly.
They could have had him walk up, right? Did an old Happy Days montage or something, right? Where Fonzie and Richie are doing stuff or something, right? At Arnold's, and they could have done that with John, right? It could have been the first time he picked Ghost up, right? Or when they killed their first white, just give us just something. That's all. That's all we don't ask for a lot, right? All we want him to do is just go up and say, "Bye, Ghost."
Hey,
Shut up now.
That's a really good idea for your next music video, Dog.
It is. I might.
Yeah, all right. So there you guys have it. A sneak peek at Dog's thoughts on for his next.
Me and you and a dog named Boo.
Yep. All right. So Dog's number one, the petting zoo, and poor neglected Ghost and Tormund. And speaking of Tormund, my number one is about Tormund Giantsbane, in the party. It's like, dude, who stole my pants? And then crapped in them. What kind of, has to be the funniest line the whole entire series now. At first, I thought it was the greatest swordsman in the world without a sword, by the Hound. But this line about, now which of you cowards shit my pants, that tops it all, right? And just to see, Podrick, Tyrion, and Jaime's face was perfect. And on top of that, right, after somebody shits in his pants, the next morning, Tormund gets stuck with Ghost, who's missing a right ear. That's crazy, isn't it? So, I don't know. I mean, I thought this was great. Really, really funny line. But you know what, people? I'm just kidding. That's not my number one. It's not about anybody shitting in Tormund's pants. If you guys do want to know who shit in Tormund's pants, look at my video a couple of videos ago on my channel on Breaking the Wheel number 6. My number one is what? My number one is climbing the mountain and then jumping off. And this is, I think, the most powerful scene in the whole episode. It's basically Jaime and Brienne's relationship, where we do see an apparent regression of Jaime's character, right? I mean, he was turning it around. He was a great guy. He was being a nice guy. Then all of a sudden, he hears a story about, Rhaegal basically, dying, and the Targaryen fleet, the 5th Targaryen fleet that's still around there, being destroyed. And he basically regresses and basically wants to dump Brienne so he can go back to King's Landing. Now, the question is, in everybody's mind, is he going back to King's Landing like he said to Brienne because he's addicted to Cersei and he's still in love with Cersei? Or is he going back to King's Landing because he wants to save his unborn child from dying? And the only way to do that is to basically save Cersei or try to talk her down, if you will. But who knows Jaime's motivations right now? I think he really wants to save his unborn child, and he really wants to save King's Landing again, for the second time by talking Cersei down, because I think he believes he's the only person that can talk Cersei down. And lastly, I think you made this point earlier, Dog. Brienne, Gwendolyn Christie did a really, really spot on job with acting here, showing her really her gut wrenching emotions, right, of actually being dumped, right, and because you know that these two are in love with one another, right? Jaime's in love with Brienne, Brienne's in love with Jaime. There's been tension mounting, for years about this, and to see this kind of breakup and to see the way that Jaime kind of like dumped Brienne by, saying how hateful he is just, it was heartbreaking to see Brienne's face. I don't know if we're gonna see Brienne again. The wheel says that she's gonna die next episode, but the wheel could be proven wrong, or has known to be wrong a lot of times. And but I just like this scene, okay, only because of the sheer emotion of it. And if somebody asked me who got basically put down the hardest in terms of the entire episode, it was probably Brienne in my opinion. Who got taken down the hardest. A lot harder than
the acting was fabulous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So awesome spot on here, Mill. Mm-hmm. I think what set this in motion for Jaime, right, mm-hmm. is the scene with Sansa learning about the dragon dying and what happened with Dany's fleet, yeah. and the chaos that was going over there, right? Mm-hmm. And she looks at Jaime and says, I always wanted to be there when they executed your sister. Mm-hmm. Looks like I won't have the chance, right? And I think once he heard, execute your sister, mm-hmm. right? Even though, yes, she sent Bronn to go kill them now, right? Whatever, right? It's still his twin sister, right? I highly doubt that either one of those two want to see her burn alive or get beheaded or things of that nature, right? Especially Jaime. Out of all of them, right? I forget sometimes that about her being pregnant, right? I'm not sure if that's really true or not, but mm-hmm. I think he's more concerned with Cersei being executed, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think he left to kill her. I don't think he left to stop to turncoat and fight against the North. I think he simply went to King's Landing to try to get her out of the city. I think that's what he's trying to do at this point.
Yeah, I just don't know whether or not Jaime actually cares about his sister anymore as much as he cares about that unborn child that may or may not exist in Cersei's belly. So
there's a difference between, like not talking to your siblings but then when you hear about they're going to execute her, mm-hmm. right? There's, it's his family still, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what set it in motion. And so he told Brienne the most hurtful things that he could possibly say to her,
Yeah.
right? And that way she wouldn't follow him down to King's Landing. And but I think he's simply going down there to make sure she doesn't get executed, or to give her a mercy killing, possibly.
Yeah. You think they're ever going to meet again? These two?
Are Brienne and Jamie going to meet again? It's Jamie and Brienne.
Yes.
Oh, it would be poetic, kind of poetic if Jamie did die in the arms of the woman he loved, right? In Brienne's arms, right? But I have a feeling it might be he might die in Cersei's arms, possibly.
Yeah, I mean,
but I could, you never know. Brienne might take off and go down there to try to save him. Just kind of, and the only other quick one, I don't think we mentioned this scene tonight, was Bronn, and when he went and talked to Tyrion and Jamie in that scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that because at the end of that, Tyrion said, we could use an officer to help us out, and he was like, no, my fighting days are done, but I have some killing days left for you two, schmuckatellis or whatever, right? And then he kind of gives them a little smile as he leaves. I think Bronn might come back and help Tyrion when Tyrion's about to die or something, right? Bronn might show up to make sure he can pay up, right? Similar to kind of how you're thinking that Brienne might actually go down there and save Jamie in that way too. I could kind of see that happening. So I definitely think we're going to see Bronn save Tyrion. That's my prediction. And I'm kind of on the fence about seeing Brienne melt. But it would be poetic if Jamie died in her arms.
Well, I mean, if Brienne has done the King's Landing, then Podrick's going to follow, and then maybe Podrick will kill the Mountain, as the wheel predicts. So, and that's my number one, guys, climbing the mountain, and then basically just jumping right off. Good job, Jamie. You go. And that is it, folks, for our top 5 lists. But before we leave, we're going to go ahead and do a quick recap for anyone who actually didn't see the whole thing. So go for it, Dawg. You're first.
All right, folks. And my number one, folks, is our farewell to Ghost, right? Apparently Winterfell isn't a petting zoo, right? And but hats off. I love Ghost. And number 2 is what I called the Queen Mustn't Know, right? When Jon, reveals to the other Starks his true heritage, right? My number 3 was Keep It a Secret with Dany and Jon, and kind of what's putting a damper in their relationship. I'm kind of heartbroken. I was hoping, I was definitely hoping to see these two at the end. I think I still have a chance at this, right? I think Jon might be able to temper Dany, hopefully. And Keep It Secret. It's my number 3. My number 4 was the big party scene. We went over that in pretty good detail. The party scene after the eulogy, which was my number 5. Jon's very powerful eulogy speech, and that was my top 5 moments for season 8, episode 4. Milt.
All right, good, cool, and a great list, Dawg. And for my top 5 moments, episode 4 is 5. Okay, basically was the global warming, climate change, but I didn't want to put a slide of that in my top 5. Instead, I just went to focus on the coffee cup. So that's my number 5. But it really was about global warming in Westeros. Number 4 was Rush Hour Part 2, starring the Hound and Arya, aka Jackie Chan and that other guy. Number 3 was the 50% of the Dothraki still around somewhere. The ghost army of the Dothraki somewhere. I don't know where they are. Number 2, the Westerosi Zapruder film. Remember that? Showing the downfall of Rhaegal. Back and to the left. Back and to the left. And number 1, was basically climbing the mountain and jumping right off. And the touching scene between Jamie and Brienne. And pretty sad, very emotional, and very, very, very well acted. And that is all, folks, for the stream tonight. It's Dawg. So, any closing thoughts?
I'm very curious. I'm just in so much anticipation for tomorrow night's episode right now. I'm curious to the reaction of the fan base. I think I'm more anticipated for that. After what's kind of happened with these last two episodes with the fans and the community. I hope we have a nice, real strong episode here that everybody's all happy with, right? And enough of the nonsense and the fighting and stuff, right? I saw enough with that with Star Wars. Let's keep it cordial, if you will, right? So keep it civil. Keep it civil.
Yeah, I think episode 5 is going to be great. I think it's going to be a lot better than episode 3, and I think it's even going to be more of a bloodbath than episode 3. I think I think there'll be a lot more main character deaths coming, in episode 5 than we expected from episode 3, right? In which, the deaths in episode 3 wasn't really that impactful, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, it should be great, and I hope it's great. Okay, so yeah, that's my thoughts for episode 5 and episode 4. Good lead-in. It wasn't bad. It was inconsistent, but it was not a bad episode. And that's all I gotta say about that. Dawg, so what's happening with you? And let the people out there know what you're gonna do besides a tic-tac-toe diagram in your next music vid.
Recently, folks, I've been making some. I think I finished my Star Wars music videos. It's kind of fun doing those, and I made my own stick figure recently, which actually did better than my Star Wars video that I worked my heart and soul doing. But I did a stick figure today, folks, and I might do 2 stick figures next time. And so look forward to some more rocks and potatoes also. And have fun watching episode 5. And and I'll have more stuff on the way. I also do collabs with Rhodes Rants, who was in the chat earlier too. So I'll see you folks on Tuesday on his channel around I believe 6:20 Central. We do that. So check out Rhodes Rants and John Matrix as well too. Other great channels, and check out all these great channels in the chat here as well. And my friend the Westerosi Ninja. Be sure to check out his new merchandise store with the beach towels and coffee cups as well. Be part of the crew. Be part. Don't be a part.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that shout out about the Teespring store, and that is in the stream description of this video. So go check it out if you want some Westerosi Ninja merchandise. And here's an example of it. Cool, isn't it? So thanks a lot again, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, Dawg, for being here tonight as usual. Okay, these are really, really great collaborations, and let's see. I hope everybody has a good day tomorrow and a really, really great night tomorrow after the episode, because fingers crossed, it's going to be awesome. And stay tuned for stuff happening on my channel next week. Might be pretty busy with some more Brick and the Wheel vids. And we got trivia next Friday night. I'm hosting that with Felicia on Game of Thrones, The Song of Ice and Fire, Jeopardy. So please check it out. And I think that's it. So without further ado, have a great weekend and peace.
Ninja JK, dupla, jinxa, bota, chakra. Em cada linha de faca faz macramé no micado, paz, espadas por frases, sintático, repara no que diga. É paradigmático, não tenho paralelo, sou para lá de mágico. Sabes como rolo, martelo pneumático, técnica secreta do monstro roxo. Estamos a meter-nos no dojo, estamos a manter como no jogo, só com uma espada nos tojos. Plano picado, não sabes de onde esta ave vem. Nenhum radar pode detectar onde está a nave mãe, tu sabes bem. somos a clique, somos o clã. É Monster, Jinx, cabrão, respeito ao Vasco, comer tartan. Na terra do nunca não digo banzai. Vivo na espunca e tenho um bonsai. Ninja que é ninja, ninja, frotas imperiais. E bate mal, logo bate mais. A minha crew não sem espelhos. Na rua, dragão azul, dragão vermelho. Sento o silêncio. Verso shinobi, nunca me canso. Sou de Nairobi, ágil como um ninja. Rápido como um ninja, letal como um ninja. Brutal como um ninja, fatal como um ninja. Forte como um ninja, secreto como um ninja. Devo mesmo ser um ninja.
Esta é para os meus ninjas, só para os meus ninjas. Onde é que estão os meus ninjas? Ninjas, 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 ninjas. Esta é para os meus ninjas, só para os meus ninjas. Onde é que estão os meus ninjas? Ninjas, 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 ninjas.